I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you back to our Movement for Life class, part of AARP Missouri's Moving It Fitness series. If you've been here before, you know this class is suitable for all levels of fitness, but this is our final class in the 6-week Movement for Life series. And I have to say, wow, the time has gone fast. Our next class with Tyler will be a 6-week yoga for all class that follows the Movement for Life class. Start next Wednesday, March 10th, 10 a.m., same time, same channel, all the same stuff. Make sure and sign up if you haven't done so already. AARP Missouri also has other classes like Forever Fit and Zumba Light. And all of our programming is created for people 50 plus, but it's good for anybody of any age and in this internet age, anywhere. And you can learn more about the opportunities for fitness and other stuff by going to aarp.org/movingit. You will also find information about our sweepstakes for a Fitbit Versa 3 and other prizes. If you haven't signed up, make sure you do it today. And speaking of sweepstakes, Tyler.
Yes.
You have an announcement for us?
I am going to pick the winner. That's my announcement.
I think you're going to announce the winner, and maybe my email hasn't reached you yet.
I can make changes right now. We are
all right. So while Tyler is looking for that announcement, I'll talk a little bit more about our Fitness for Life series. And it is good for people, as I have said many times in this class, for people who can't attend a traditional fitness class, particularly people who are like caregivers and who are staying home to reduce their risk during the pandemic, and anyone who just really can't find the time or can't get away to attend a fitness class. We have all kinds of stuff on our website for caregivers, about COVID-19, about technology, on our website, aarp.org/near-you. And now I think Tyler has found the email with the winner.
I do. I feel like Tina Fey on the Golden Globe Awards. Our winner for March is Joda Biberios from St. Anne, Missouri.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Da, 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 da. So congratulations to Joda from St. Anne.
And she has won a pair of 2 to 3 pound hand weights and a fitness mat. Nice. And I believe our winner from last month has made a little video, and I'll have to see where that is, but I'm sure if you go to aarp.org/movingit, you can find it, and it shows her demonstrating her new prizes. So hopefully Joda will do the same for us. If this is your first time, and I see a lot of familiar names, so it might not be, but let's make sure your Zoom is set up for success. First, you got to make sure that you've pinned Tyler. That way she's going to stay on your screen the whole time. And to do that, you just want to go to her little Hollywood square and, click on the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. And that will give you an option to pin her. Once you click pin in that options box, she will stay front and center on your screen. And one more thing, and I can see that most of you have done that already, is please make sure that you put yourself on mute until the class ends and we open up for questions. Now, let's get started with our final Movement for Life class. Our instructor, as always, is Tyler Ferguson with Caliente Fitness. Tyler, take it away.
Thank you, Diane. All right, thank you everybody for being here on our 3rd and final day together. We're going to start by taking that intention that we had in the beginning of class and bringing it right into our body. So coming to standing, soften the knees, but allow the feet to open up and soften into the ground. Maybe lift and spread the toes and feel the fascia on the bottom of the foot soften and lengthen, and begin to notice the ground under your feet. You can soften your eye gaze right now and just listen to my voice. Notice the texture of the mat, the temperature of the mat. Feel the pressure under the mound under your big toe. Feel the pressure under the mound of your piggy toe. And then feel the pressure in your heel. And without making any changes or any judgments at all, notice if the weight is distributed evenly. And before you change it, notice your tendency, how you live in your feet. Is the weight more in your feet? In your heels? Is it more in the balls of your feet? Do you hang out on the outside edges more? Or do you hang out on the inside edges more? So mindful work is observation. And sometimes it's not even important to change anything or move anything. We just want to observe. After you've taken in this information and this observation, begin to make some little adjustments. Find some tiny movements back and forth, feeling the pressure on those 3 points of each foot, and then coming to some sense of balance. So the weight is evenly distributed between the big toe mount, piggy toe mount, and the heel. Go back to making sure you have a slight little bend in the knees and see if you can find that external rotation in the hips by screwing the jar lids down with your feet. Right foot goes clockwise, left foot goes counterclockwise. Healthy shoulders. Inhale the arms and reach overhead. Exhale the arms down to the sides. Keep doing that if your shoulders feel great. If your shoulders don't go overhead, just inhale up here and exhale down. So whatever shoulder movement you take, continue with the breath. Inhaling breath into your movement. Exhaling, moving with your breath. Try not to follow me. Try to follow your own inhales and your own exhales. Moving in just the way you want to move. The next time you inhale your arms up, let's meet with our arms either overhead or in our cross our heart position, whatever is best for your shoulders. You can bind your hands and squeeze your biceps to your ears if that feels good, or you can grab on your opposite forearms. Whatever your bind is, begin to pull your rib cage up out of your pelvic bowl, finding length in the spine, all the while being mindful of those mounds, those pressure points at the feet, big toe mound, piggy toe mound, heel. We're not moving in the ankles. We're not moving in the lower body. We're firmly rooted and planted in the ground as we just move above the hips. Squeezing our glutes a little bit and externally rotating helps us find stability and stillness below the body. One more reach up. Exhale the arms down. We're going to do a new one today. See if you can bring your hands behind your back. Maybe your shoulders will let you go there. If you have a rotator cuff injury, this could be challenging. Maybe your shoulders will allow your hands to clasp here, or maybe you might grab opposite wrists. Wherever you find a bind in the back, see if you can lift your heart, pack your shoulders, and get more space across your chest. Your eye gaze can lift a little bit, and try to breathe into your chest now. Feel the expanse on your inhale. And keep the expanse on your exhale by packing the shoulders and finding that external rotation. And then release your arms down. Inhale it up and down one more time. And back down. Good. Let's go right to our cervical spine to begin today, bringing our hands back to this cross position on our chest. Let's bring our right ear down to the right shoulder. Pausing here and just allowing the body to adapt to this new orientation, moving slowly first. We're going to change sides. So the chin comes down, the knees bend, and then just change sides, hanging out here. Noticing if we want to move our shoulders up in any way to assist. We're just trying to isolate ear down to the shoulder. Now we can move a little faster. Chin down, bend the knees, ear to the shoulder. Opposite jaw starts to pull up and away. Maybe feel the crown of the head pull up and away, creating length. Chin down, bend at the knees. Opposite ear to the shoulder and pull up and away, creating length. 2 more times. Chin down. Right when your ear lands, so does the opposite pull. Chin down, bend. As that ear lands, you're also pulling up and away. 1 more time. We're going to switch and bend and switch. Good. So that's lateral flexion of our cervical spine. Let's come back to neutral and then rotate your gaze. So you're not tilting at all. You're just moving your chin over one shoulder, looking at the wall on the side of the room, and then bringing your gaze back to center, rotating through and looking at the wall at the other side of the room. Now notice if one side rotates more or feels differently than the other. I got a little crunchy gravel going on my neck in this side. So it's common to confront crunchy gravel. Bring your eye gaze back to center. Let's take it over again. So this time you might see if you can find your edge, push just a little bit deeper, confront that gravel a little bit. No pain is allowed here. Uncomfortable is okay, pain is not allowed. Bring your eye gaze back to the center and take your eye gaze over. And when I say eye gaze, I'm assuming that your nose and your chin are following the gaze of the eyes. So that's why I use the cue of the eye gaze, because typically wherever you're looking, one more time, your nose and your chin are the same direction, and then that's a cue to get your cervical spine or your neck in the alignment that we're looking for. Back to the center, and one more time over to the other side. And back to center. Let's move into our neck glide so the chin goes down, and then the chin goes back, and the spine is long in the back position. Chin goes down and forward, and then up and back. Remember, in that up and back position, keep moving forward and then up and back. In that up and back position, you can pretend like there's a wall between the back of your, or behind the back of your head, and you're pressing back against the wall. One more time, forward and down, back, up and in. Let's take our glides sideways now. And I've noticed your neck glides over the course of the 6 weeks, and they're looking so good, you guys. Maybe think about the temples, gliding over to the shoulders. Great work. And then we're going to put our glides all together in circles. So come to your back and up position, and then over to a side, front and down, over to a side, back and up, side, front and down, and then just start to circle that right out. Move at whatever speed feels great to you. You don't have to keep with me. After this final circle, let's take it the other direction. So maybe I'm moving in a counterclockwise direction this time. And just rounding it out again, feeling or hearing some of those crunchy, gravelly things, and being okay with your crunchy gravel, but not being okay with any pain, staying away from anything that causes pain. And then let's come back to the center, bring our hands down to the ground and shrug the shoulders up into the ears, and then create some rounding in the shoulders. So what we're doing is we're elevating our scapula and depressing the scapula. So even though I'm asking you to bring the shoulders up into the ears, you're elevating and depressing your scapula. Now our scapula moves in all kinds of different directions. So let's just talk about what direction it moves today. So one more time, elevate, goes up in the air, and then depress. That's like putting your shoulder blades in your pocket. If we bring our hands together and we shoot and round, our scapula are protracting. They're separating from one another. So you're making space between the shoulder blades. And then when we separate the arms, lift the chest, feel how your shoulder blades move together. Almost like you could put a pencil in between your back and hold that pencil. And then bring your hands together, separate the shoulder blades. Take an inhale here. And then exhale, open up, lift your heart, bring your shoulder blades together. So there's so many things. Continue to do this work with me on your own. Don't wait for my cues for you to move between the two moves. Just move on your own organically when you want to. But there's so many things we can be thinking about in this move, right? But today we're just focusing on what the shoulder blades are doing. They're moving from protraction to retraction. In the past, we've cued things like opening up the pec muscles on the front lines to work against that forward rounding of the shoulders. Or we dip the chin and lift the chin, taking our cervical spine, our neck, into flexion and extension. Let's come back to neutral here. Good. Find your feet into the ground, bring your arms up, and we're going to work on our shoulder screws today. So we start by elevating a shoulder, rotating it internally, looking over your opposite arm, and maybe coming into a hip root. So we put it all together, come up and out of it, find it on the other side. Elevate, internal rotation, look over the opposite arm, and have a sit, rooting your hips. I'm going to continue to move this slow. If you want to go a little bit faster, you can, but I really want you to move with purpose and intention. But I'm just going to continue to cue you on some things you want to look for in this work. When you reach this final position, when your hips are rooted and your eye gaze is over your opposite arm, see if you can spread your fists apart, pushing them to opposite walls to really increase the stretch of this work. Yeah, and your shoulders are probably burning. You're really working your shoulders now. So if you need to take a break, that's fine. And if you want to take a break, just those arm swings are a great break. In fact, finish up wherever you are on your shoulders and then just give yourself a break. So first we can just start in these arm swings, and then now let the hips move and let the arms slap against you so that the movement of the arms is coming from the spin of the hips. So you don't even have to initiate any movement from the arms. This is nice because this movement, this organic movement, is slightly tugging on the tissues associated with the shoulder. And it's nice to give your shoulder that little tug. Okay, let's come back to center again. We're going to work on the thoracic spine or the chest. So place your hands on your hips, re-corkscrew and find your hips, and then let your rib cage glide over to one side and then glide over to the other side. Glide over and over. And it can be really hard to leave your belly button or your pelvis out of this. And even though your shoulders are moving a little bit, you're initiating movement with the rib cage. You're trying to initiate movement with the ribs. These are called chest glides. And you might notice how you have to sort of engage your core muscles a little bit to help you isolate and glide your chest side to side. Now let's let the chest pop forward and pop back. So as it pops forward, the back is sort of concave, and then it pops back. So the back is sort of rounded. So let the chest pop forward and pop back. So when it pops forward, our spine is more in extension. When it pops back, our spine is more in flexion. So just playing between these two places, flexion and extension. And then let's put them all together. So let's pop back, pop side, pop forward, pop other side. Back, side, forward, other side, and then start circling this out. And this can be really informative. So what are your hips doing right now? How much are you moving on the bottom of your feet? And it's hard. I'm giving you a lot of information, but we're just trying to find isolation, just moving the chest and trying not to move the lower body. Take your circles the other direction. I don't know, they just feel super delicious today to me. So I put you right into circles the other direction. If you need to map it out, forward, side, back, and keep it a little staccato to find it and map it in your brain, that's normal. And then take that map and find your glides. Maybe you can even feel your core working here, almost like it feels if you're doing some kind of core exercise, and then come to stillness. All right, great job on the thoracic spine. Let's go back up to the arms for a minute. Blade the fingers together, and then we're just going to glide the shoulders over. Pause and feel this deep stretch in the hip here. Allow that stretch to happen. Allow yourself to feel it. If you corkscrew your feet here and turn on your glutes, it might help you stabilize. And then glide over. So remember, it's not just doing the pose. It's arriving in the pose, noticing how you feel as you get there, noticing how you feel as you hang out there. Now we can begin to move a little bit faster, gliding from side to side. Noticing if your head is sort of equally between your shoulders In other words, you don't want to drop here, right? You want to keep your head actively between your shoulders. Now we're going to add on. So let's go to our original side. We're going to glide over. Arm injuries, always the same. If your arm is feeling safe, you can reach up and over here. Now, can you open up your chest to the screen just a little bit? Maybe take an arm bind here. Squeeze your glutes, draw your belly button in, and then rotate your whole trunk down over the leg that you're twisting toward. Your eye gaze, your chin, everything's down to the floor. And then twist back up. We'll see each other in the screen, and then keep twisting. Squeeze the glutes a little bit, belly button comes in. Keep twisting up to the ceiling. And then one more rotation of that. So we're still in lateral flexion. All right, so we're still leaning over to that original side, flexing our spine laterally to one side, and then we're adding this delicious rotation like a dish rag. We're just wringing it all out. And then when we come back to neutral from wringing it all out and onto our arms, we're right over here in this lateral flexion. Boom. Come on over, find your lateral flexion this side. Take the arm bind that's safest for you. This is where we go with shoulder injuries. Otherwise, rotate down. And rotate back to the screen and up. Now notice, you might feel a little vulnerable in your low back as you're performing these rotations. If you turn on the glutes and draw the belly button in, that protects the low back, keeps that area a little bit more stable so you can find the rotation more in your upper thoracic or in your thoracic spine. Come back to center. Release the arms and boop, 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 bam, we're right back up to top. Let's go to elbows here. This one's pretty simple. And this one's more of a visualization, right? So we're working the elbow joint. The elbow joint makes our arm move from extension to flexion. And I just want you to visualize as you move through this, all kinds of fluid being moved around in the joint, and the joint becoming lubricated and hydrated. Pause here, take it the other direction. Come down, open up, and bring it back in. So we start slow to map it out in the brain, and then you can pick up speed. So same thing, just imagining all these little tiny movements and how that's bringing health or fluid, hydration to our elbow joint, giving it a little bit of love. Yes. And then coming to our wrists, let's go with opening up the wrist here, keeping the shoulder into pack. So I don't want you to open up the wrist here. Bring the shoulder into pack, press down through all four fingers of the hands. And even though you might open up at the elbow joint, that's okay. What we're really trying to do is get the wrist joint. So breathing as you pull the fingers back. And then release. Only take the pinky finger and the fourth finger. Just those two fingers. Go right back into finding that. Shoulder pack is important still. Notice how it changes the sensation in the lower arms. And then release. Middle finger and ring finger. Opening up the wrists. And then release here. Crunch and open the fingers, or squeeze and open the fingers. And go right over to the other side. So we're going to start with the four fingers. Shoulder is in pack. Open up the wrist. And the great thing is, it's up to you. How much pressure you apply, you could go in and out and kind of pulp it a little bit if that feels better to you. I kind of like holding on to it. Make sure you're breathing full breaths. If you ever do something with me and you can't take a deep breath, that's an indication that whatever you're doing is too much sensation. We don't want to trigger, go ahead and release here, go pinky and forth. We don't want to put the nervous system into fight or flight. And if you can't take a deep breath, then you're in fight or flight. So we're doing this whole work for rest and digest. So just deep inhales and exhales the whole time. Let's release here. Go to the index finger and the middle finger. Find your stretch there. Make sure you can breathe fully in any shape that we take. In through the nose is best, in and out through the nose is great if you can do that. And then released, and then open and close your fists again. And then we'll finish this wrist work with some A-OKs and some ice cream cones. I love the way A-OKs and ice cream cones make my wrists feel I love for people to give me massages. So this to me feels like a massage in my lower arms, the space between my elbows and my wrists, even though I'm moving my fingers. All righty then, let's go back up to our spine and get a little bit of sassy and cashew happening into the spine. I was working on a video for our yoga class that we're going to do together. And what we've learned here, some of the things that we've learned about shoulder pack and sassy and cashew, then we can layer onto those ideas in our yoga class and see how they show up in yoga. The most obvious place would be cat pose and cow pose when your spine goes sassy and cashew. Come to neutral here. See if you can hike one hip up and then push it down and hike the other hip up. So it's not quite like a hip root. You might have to bend one knee to get the hip to go up and then bend the other knee to get the hip to go up. Boom, boom. Good. You can work on your runway walk here. I don't know. And then pause. Now go a little bit deeper into a side hip root, which we already did with our shoulder screws today. But we'll just revisit our side hip root, particularly if that's feeling good. And remember, you don't have to move with me. If it's feeling super juicy and good in one side, you can hang out there. Just make sure ultimately that you try to even out the amount of time you spend on each side of the body. Let's get in there and work a little bit. So you're going to go to a side hip root and then you're going to sweep as if you have a brush on your hip and you're just painting your side wall. So get a little sweep in there. Maybe you can feel all of those connective tissues or stabilizers in your hip. Now come forward in your hips. Squeeze your glutes. You can lock your knees out here. Let the hip points drift a little forward and then lengthen through the spine. So it's like a little back bend here and then send your hips over in the other direction. Sweep the wall. Good. So notice if you can tap into your connective tissue on that side. And then when you exit out of that, you're going to bring your hips forward, squeeze your glutes, let the hip points drift forward, lengthen, lift your heart, lengthen through the spine, lengthen through the crown of the head, but you're in just a little bit of a back bend. And then come back to standing. Shift your weight over into one leg and begin to rotate your one leg, starting with the knee and the toe internally and externally. Now, you can bring in a wall, you can go to the wall or bring in a chair for balance. I just want to make something clear. This is a hip exercise. This isn't a balance exercise. So if you're struggling with your balance here and you're not getting the benefit of the movement in your hip, go ahead and hold on to something for balance because we're going to do a balance exercise. And that's when you can challenge your balance. Option here to keep your toe on the ground or to move from internal to external rotation, tapping the toe each time. And then just being mindful that you don't have a lot of rotation in your trunk. You don't want your trunk moving. You want your hip moving. Pause with me in external rotation. Let's all find external rotation. And then you're going to sweep your foot forward and back. Forward. Now notice as I move forward and back, there's not a lot going on in my spine. I could go more forward and I could go more back if I moved in my spine, but I want to keep that still. Just move through the hip, come to center, turn to internal rotation, and then move forward and back. Now, internal rotation, I can't go back much before I start getting super sassy in my spine. So just working on your in range in the hip, leave the spine out of it, and then come to standing. So that leg's probably a little fatigued right now. So just wiggle it out, get a little blood flow, a little bounce, a little vibration, and we'll go on the other side. So if you move your prop, that's fine. Starting out, just internal and external rotation. And then option to lift the toe up as you change from internal to external rotation, being mindful of your trunk. Just trying to find that movement. It's the femur head in the hip socket. Good. A few more rounds here. You can move slower than I'm moving. That's fine. Sometimes I get talking, lose track of my speed. And then let's meet an external rotation. Now, your standing leg. Are you locked out? Soft bend in that knee. And then find your movement, an external rotation. I'm an old soccer player, so this is a common movement from my life. Couple more swings, and then pause, find internal rotation, and then move through back and forth at your internal rotation. So just trying to separate the movement at the hip from the spine. So a common misalignment would be to go here. I'm leaking the energy out of my chest. I'm getting really sassy in my butt. Just go here, just as far as you can go. And bring your foot down and pause. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Give your legs a chance to rest after all of that balance work. But we're going to add a little layer of work on it. Come into chair pose. And remember the way that we get there, when we move into a squat, you don't want your knees to be the first thing that goes in a squat. It's a hip hinge. So the butt moves behind the heels, and then you drop your seat. There's your squat. There's your chair pose. You don't have to be super, super deep in your pose right now. Just a little squat as if you're sitting down on the ground. From here, see if you can move your spine into cashew and sassy. Right here, and just notice how it feels in the squat position. And then try to find something that feels a little neutral, not super cashew, something that just feels natural and neutral in your spine here. Reach your arms up overhead. You're still in your squat, and then pull your arms down, cactus arms. Shoulder blade glides. Inhale your arms up. We're still in our squat. If that's comfortable for you, exhale the arms down. Good. Maybe spread the fingers. Inhale the arms up. Remember, if you have a shoulder injury, we're right here. Exhale the arms down. Hands come to prayer. Come to standing. Squeeze your glutes. Open up your hips. You can lock out your knees. Come to this little back bend with the hip points forward. You don't want to collapse back here. You want to lengthen here. And then come to neutral. Great. Let's get to some ankle work. So you're going to just step one foot back a little bit, peel the heel up, and we're going to try to do a little closed chain ankle today. So here's where we go. We roll to the outside of our foot. So that can be a little tough. This is called the blade edge of your foot. And then I'm going to roll over the top of my foot. And then I'm going to roll to the inside edge. And then push the heel around to the back. So I go outside edge, top, inside edge, heel goes back around. Outside edge, top, inside edge, back around. So you're getting these ankle circles, but by pressing your foot down in the ground, you're just closing the chain, bringing a little bit more sensation. And notice, I am moving my upper body a little bit to accommodate that because it's a little wonky with balance and stuff, and that's okay. Let's try that one on the other side. That's a newer one for us. So you're just going to step your one foot back. We'll start by rotating to the blade edge, that outside edge, and that in itself is just a delicious stretch for me. Now come over the top of your foot. When you do that, when you come over the top, you're going to have to put more weight into this leg. Then you're going to roll onto the inside edge. Then you push the heel back and around to the back position. Outside edge, over the top, inside edge, and then you start to find some circles. You might need to hold on to something for balance on this one, and that's fine too. So getting some deep, juicy circles in our ankles. Now, if that doesn't feel great to you, you can always just do this one. And I don't mean to say just do it, but you can always do your ankle circles up in space, open chain. We're just closing the chain and showing what it feels like when you press it against the ground here. All righty. Couple more things. Let's work on our balance challenge today. So our feet are going to come into square, soft bend in the knees, corkscrew and pack, shifting weight over to one leg. Start to peel the opposite heel up, but stay strong in your balance leg. Keep a slight bend in the knees. My bad. Pause. Let's go back. Couple of things. One, try to listen to my voice in the cueing. If you look at me and try to do what I'm doing, it messes up your drishti or your eye gaze. So in balancing poses, you want to focus on something in the room that your eyes naturally drift to that isn't moving. So like right under my screen that I'm looking at, there's a yoga block. So my drishti is going to go to the yoga block. I'm going to come into that little bit of a chair pose. I can bring my hands into prayer from that chair pose. Then I'm going to shift weight onto one leg. And then you have an option here. The heel that's peeled up, you can tap it in front, tap back to center, tap it out to the side, back to center, keep your eye gaze forward, tap your leg back behind, tap back to center. And then there's the one where you reach behind the standing leg, tap, and back to center. Now, if you had to peek at the screen to see where we were going, we did this last week, but if you had to look where we're going, I understand. When you know what we're doing, find that eye gaze and work without looking at the screen. Forward and tap, to the side and tap, to the back and tap, back behind and tap. One more time. Option not to tap in between if that's where you are in your balance journey. Tap, come to center, tap side, come to center, hover. Tap back behind, come to center, hover. Tap around the standing leg, come to center and hover. Finish when you're finished. Don't wait for me, but when you're finished, come to standing and sort through it. Now, you can do that work with a chair. There's no problem with doing that balance work, also holding on to a chair. Notice I'm just touching with my finger for that balance. That can really inform the brain and let the brain know where you are in space and be helpful to your practice. So you're still balancing if you're bringing in support. Let's find that exercise on the other side. Coming into your little slight chair pose, hands come to prayer. Find length out of the crown of the head, shifting weight into your balancing leg, peeling up into the toes of the leg that you're going to make mobile. Find your drishti or your eye gaze on the object that isn't moving. And we're going to tap forward, tap back to center, tap to the side, back to center, tap behind, back to center, and then behind the standing leg, back to center. Option to touch, let's go forward and back to center. Touch the wall, touch your prop to help you with your balance. Behind, back to center. Behind the standing leg, back to center. I might be moving too quickly and I apologize. Slower is fine. Forward and hover. Side and hover. Straight back and hover. Behind the standing leg. And, oops, I lost my balance. And boom, there we are. Okay, guys, I promised you a surprise last week, and I'm happy to report that I have it up and running. I've installed my toe cam for our final bit of the work we're gonna do here today. So I have to switch cameras to my toe camera. I think that's it. There it is. There's the toe cam. So we're gonna finish. We're gonna finish with a little bit of toe work today. So our feet are evenly placed. Our knees are nice and soft. So lift the toes up and spread them wide. Remember, you can use your fingers to help you find this work in your toes. Spread them, spread them, spread them, and then place them back down on the ground. Look down, see if you have space between your toes. Make your spine long and neutral here, and then lift the toes and spread them out nice and wide. And place them down on the mat. One more time, it's going to change here. Lift your toes and spread them. Now keep them spread. See if you can just tap your big toe or your great toe. So my other toes are moving, but I'm just trying to touch my great toe. So there are muscles that flex and extend that big toe, that move all the way back up behind your calf muscle. So you're working your leg muscles here. Release, stop. Now try to tap just your piggy toe. So just reach and tap with your piggy toe. And even if your toes aren't moving, there's a connection that you're making to your feet. And think about a mole go tunneling through the ground, making a connection. Keep making that connection to your toe. Release, take a rest here. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. All right, you might feel some fatigue already in your lower legs or your feet from this work. So you can reestablish where you are on the mat. Come back to stillness, big toe mound, piggy toe mound, heel. Lift all 10 toes, spread them out nice and wide, and then go big, piggy, big, piggy. Back and forth. Notice my ankles and my knees aren't moving. I'm just moving the toes. Now watch. Now I'm going to roll in and roll out. Roll in and roll out. Roll in. Roll out and hold. Notice the stretch that you get maybe right above the ankle and the peroneal muscles. And then roll in and hold. And then come to neutral. 2 more challenges here. Lift 10 toes up, spread them, bring them down, and then make those little suction cups. So notice I'm not curling my toes under. That's not what we're doing. I'm flattening out the suction cups on the bottom of the toes, and then I'm scrunching them back to my feet, making these little toe knuckles. So feel the strength of your arch, the strength of your foot as you do that work. And then our final challenge, lift all 10 toes, separate. Start from beginning. All 4 toes down, big toe lifts. Da, 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 da. That's the challenge right there. And then can you change that? Can you put your big toes down, lift your 4 toes? Now, the way that I learned how to do this is I spent a lot of time doing this. Then I pushed those toes down, and then I learned how to lift my toes. So that's how I spent time doing that. And then eventually you can begin to, it's not a lot different than when you were a kid doing this stuff, right? It's kind of the same thing, just spending time in your toes doing it. All right, let me switch it back to my other camera and we will close. Oh shoot, I'm so sorry I did that with Diane when I practiced. We'll close together with the studio camera. Final time, find a little soft bend in the knees, find your active stance, maybe crush the ground together, bring your arms up, fight gravity, get nice and tall. Big inhale here, exhale, bring your arms down, bring your arms up around and grab your opposite shoulders, squeeze yourself and get long. That is a hug from me to you, the biggest, you can move back and forth in your hug. What a pleasure and an honor to get to do this work with you guys. So much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a great joy.